Hey everybody, going live at the table tonight with the Rhino. Going to be doing a coloring project to get this card knocked out for the sketchbook, and we are going to have a little fun. It'll take about 20-30 minutes, maybe. This one will be a quick one, it should be, and we'll go from there. So, sharing this over with the page so everybody can get notified, and we will go on this thing and get it done. Now, got that. Now I'm going to be using colored pencils tonight because that's just pretty much what I was using most of the day, and I'm trying to give the Copics a rest for another project because I've been using them pretty heavy the last couple of days. So I wanted to go a little bit different and also show some of the way that this works. Just not using them up through the normal avenue here. And I'm doing a little bit different coloring technique tonight. I'm doing something that's a little more like what I do for actual comics, which is a little different. So you'll see a lot more white in this one in select areas, but it'll still be colored in pretty good. Because this armor is polished, so it tends to have a little bit of a heavier white highlight to it. So I like to use the natural background of the card for that. Sometimes I use a gel pen or even the canvas marker, which I have, which is a wax opaquing marker. It's called a marker, but it's a pencil, and I use that a lot as well. But in this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the old pencils here. I love these things, these Staedtlers and Prismacolors. They color everything really well with very little pressure and very little saturation issue. Where some take a little more finesse, this one actually does not. See, I'm barely touching that, and it's just coming right off. So there we go. Cool deal. See the edge of his nugget right there. Nugget's technical term. Another way of saying head, noggin, brain, or as my daughter likes to call them, shoulder boulders, which is like a rock on top of the head, atop of the shoulders, not the more common sexist term of female anatomy, which we won't go there because we don't do that. But she says her head's heavy, so, and because it's got a big brain, so I love that kid. What's anyway? Moving onward. Yep. Just kind of mapping this out a little bit. A lot of people like to go from the inside out, and I'm moving around from piece to piece because I don't know exactly how it's going to vibe with me until I'm ready for it to cross. Sometimes it's right up against it, sometimes it's on the outer edge, sometimes it's in the middle. You know, like down here, it's towards the middle, then outer edging where the light's hitting it a little differently. Just depends on where the light hits. I like to move this around quite a bit because then I don't have to worry about it. I was working on some page work today, and I got artist block, so I had to stop and do some marketing stuff instead because I just got wiped out, I suppose. I just wasn't feeling it today. I mean, I may go back to the board tonight and I may do all 12 pages. I don't know. I've got a 12-page preview set that I'm doing right now that's going to appear in an anthology, and then it's going to appear in my standalone comic. But I've done this anthology for a couple of years now, and Mike's a great guy and whatnot, and I want to help him out with it and continue to do it. And not to mention the fact that it has like 50,000 readers, so I'm all about that as well. Can't help but be smart tactically, and we both know it's a good book and a good read. And I help everybody out every year as much as I can with inking, penciling, writing suggestions, whatever tends to come along. As long as I resonate with the story and it resonates with my style, I'm good to go. I don't make any money at it because he gives it away for free, but I'm one of those guys that believes in free labor being exposure and being investment in myself rather than it being something about the money, because it's not. You know, I mean, if you're investing in a comic that you're creating or co-creating and helping, then why not do an anthology and build it up and get your name and your brand out there and consider an investment in the exposure of doing it. You know, not to mention the fact that it's a credential, whether it's paid or not, it's still a credential. And a lot of people gripe about that. But dude, you got to stop and think about it and think about what you're looking at, because when you get out there and you start exposing yourself like that with projects, free or not, if your name's on it, that's still a project you get to claim as long as it's a decent project. That's why I'm more than willing to help people out and do some projects like that a couple a year, you know. I don't do many because I can't afford that because I don't have the time, you know. I have clients to consult and things like that, and I have all the business stuff that I run that I have to take care of, and I have to put my time where my real money is. But I put on my schedule a couple of times a year a couple of projects, and the reason, like I said, I do that is because it gives me great exposure during the year for other material, especially this one because it comes out in January and comes out in January for digital release, and then comes out later in the summer on print on demand. So I get double exposure from it, and that crowd really eats it up. So you know, don't turn away an anthology or a freebie book just because of the fact you don't get money up front. When you can get exposure like 50,000 people, that's stupid not to do it. I mean, that's just, I'm sorry to be harsh about it, but it's true. 100% fact. It's stupid not to do it. It is plain stupid. And if you don't, you're missing out. And I mean, that's your business loss and that's your choice. But for me, it's ignorant to do that, so I can't. Just not willing to. Not willing to. So that's my personal take on it. And if you disagree with that, that's all right. That's okay. You might hear my lab barking outside tonight. I've got him out early because we're supposed to get some funky weather this evening, and I don't want to have him out too late. So excuse the barking, because he's a very large dude and he likes to vocalize with the neighbor dogs, and he's a big guy. But I've got him out right now because it's going to be too cold for him to go out a little bit later when he likes to go out later in the evening. It'll be too cold. And I don't hear the neighbor dogs barking back at him, so he's probably the only one out there riding solo tonight. He's probably barking at one of the neighbors. So, but anyway, gonna be knocking this out. See, fairly simple, right? Straight up, nice solid gray in there. Cool deal. Thanks, Alfred. I appreciate it. No, thank you, buddy. You guys are awesome for stopping on. I appreciate it, man. I'm going to do this one very simple because this is going to be very, very easy going. Just a key center tone here in select areas. It's not even going to be out throughout the whole thing. It's just going to be in little touch points like that. I'm going in center shadow, which is a technique for coloring in the core of the tone, going in like that and coloring in just that base, getting right in the middle there and leaving that high and dry as far as a lot of that goes. I'm not going to wash it out through the whole thing because I don't want to overtone it, overwork it. See, just kind of thickening it up just a little bit. And the reason for that is to add that hard shadow in there. Like that. Shadow that bottom part where I left it open a little bit. Get the rest of the back of the head here. Now I'll go up into the old neck. Leave that alone. I like doing these hard shadowed spots because it makes it have a depth to it. So I will be, these are light circles, that's the reason it's taking so long, because I want it to have a even coloring and not hard shadow. Because it doesn't take much to shade this thing in. It really doesn't. Because this gray is going to pop anyway because of the white. And then when I put the black on it, it'll really pop. Color those shadows there. And again, I'm just going to blend this in on that underside. Because like I said, I'm just not putting it everywhere. I'm just putting it as an accent through a lot of this heavier stuff. It's going to give him more shape. Even though it's black and white, which is phenomenally cool to watch happen. I always love grayscaling because of the fact that when it comes out, it shows up way different than color because it takes fewer hues to do the same thing that it takes with the color schemes. It cracks me up to no end the way that works out. You know, it's like watching the original. If you were a fan of the I Love Lucy show, that original black and white was so rich and so powerful. And then when they colored it with Technicolor, I was just like, ah, kill me now. They ruined it. Like the other night, they showed the I Love Lucy Christmas special. And I was just like, wow, this looks horrible. Since they did the Technicolor thing, it doesn't even look like it anymore. It almost looks like it's a bad old school CGI. You remember how they used to do video games and the CGI skims of some of those old board games where they did the videos and they, you know, did the fantasy stuff and it was all digitized and whatnot, and it looked really, really strange and off kilter. It almost looks like Lucy is done that way, and it's sad that they actually won't show it now beyond that colored version, because that's what everybody tended to lean for a little while, and I would much rather see it in the original black and white. I'm so glad they petitioned not to have that happen with the Stooges, because can you imagine the Three Stooges in Technicolor and that being ripped up like that? I just couldn't see it. It would be a travesty. I mean, that would be like coloring Charlie Chaplin. It would just be pointless. Everybody thinks that color is the best way to go most of the time, and it's just not. You know, there is a richness and unique look to grayscale and black and white, especially with the nostalgia of those old films and series. Not everything should be upgraded, folks. Not everything. Some stuff just works as it is, you know. They were made the best they could be made at the time, and that's the way they should stay. It's like when they colorized the Wizard of Oz. I was like, don't do that, and they did it anyway. Of course, they don't listen to me, though. Especially since I was like 10 when they did it. So, oh, goodness, excuse my sniffles. Oh, man, that weather's coming in, and I am feeling it. Had to up the old vitamin C all day and keep everything ready, hoping not to get sick. I'm just going to accent this because I know this looks a little more Capullo or McFarlane in style, but you know they're great influences to me, both of them. And one for Todd's dynamics, and for his storytelling capability, as well as his graphic design stuff. And then you have Greg's just phenomenal artistic style, which that's something I always thrive for, is because of the fact that I really dig the way his stuff has a three-dimensional effect to it. It has a almost an animated or a painted effect, and it's really, really in depth. The Kuberts have that same. The Kuberts have that same aspect on things. They have that same effect, and I really dig that. So, I really like that. Just want to darken these up a little bit, make this stuff kind of pop out. Make all that move. Yeah, one of the neighbors is leaving. I can hear it. I can hear its pickup. And my dog is raising Cain. That would probably be due to that guy being mean to him a lot. He yells at him. We've had an issue with that. But anyway. Gonna knock this out. See, this stuff doesn't take very long at all, you know, in the way it's moving and whatnot. I really dig that. Now, we've got him all spaced out and colored up. So, oops, forgot the chin. That won't work. Color the chin there a little. Now he's all toned up, and what I'm going to do is take in this one right before we end it on the suit here, adding in a really soft blue right in those whites, just to give it a little bit of color. Not much at all, just a little. And just like that. Some people like to go blue with him. Some people like to go gray. I've even seen people use reds. I prefer to use the blue in it just to give it kind of that Kevlar look, which the suit's made of. I tend to find it looks a little better. But it's personal preference. Use whatever you like. You know, I've seen people use, like I said, grays and oranges and things like that, and it's all good. Just depends on your personal preference. Like this right here. Making sure I tap every little bit of it, because if I don't, it'll look out of balance whenever it goes into the finished look here, and I put down the flesh tone. It'll contrast with the pieces that are open, and it'll look funny. It'll look unfinished. Cool deal. Trying to keep my big knuckles out of the way here. Whoever gets this card is going to have a great one, because I'm really impressed with it. Even if I say so myself, I dig this one. Just really, really like the look of this one. Very cool. Very happy with it. Okay, cool deal. All right. Now we've got him shaded up. And what I'm going to do is, before I go in and do the flesh color, I'm going to go in here and do the eyes. Like that. There we go. Cool deal. That is coming out really sharp. Make sure I work that line there. Very cool. Now, just to make him pop a little more, go in and add a few pinks here and there, just in the sensitive areas. Kind of give it more of an organic type of feel where he's got more of a complexion. Like that. And then that same brown that I used in his eyes, I can bring that down into his face a little, like shadowing under the nose here. Shadowing under the edge of the mask, where his eyes are. Just like that. Down under here. Shade down under the chin, under the jaw, under the cheekbone, under that lower lip. Boom, done deal. Now, I want to go back in. A lot of people like to do these yellow. I don't. I prefer to do them in the classic red. Now, grab that super dark red, put in the corners and along that top ridge. Boom, right there. Now you have to be careful with this one, but if you want to add in a little bit of a highlight to contrast it, put in just a little streak of red here and there in the brown eyes, and it'll brighten them up. Brighten them up immensely, as a matter of fact. Just gives it a little more of an edge. And now, as a contrasting color, because we have this being Rhino, I'm going to go off. Oh, the other side just got home from work. The other neighbor. I heard the car door shut and I heard him start barking. That's how I know. But anyway, just going to contrast him with this orange, and it'll make everything kind of brighten up and pull out those colors and pop. I love doing these like this because of the fact that it just makes them scream bright color contrast because of the dark blacks, and then the multi-tone coloring really shows up immensely well whenever you have all that stuff going on with just one color surrounding it. It makes a really rich, interesting look. Of course, I'm a 90s card fan. I prefer the 90s comics whenever it's everything, you know, and the cards especially, because they had that retro look to them. You know, everything was super bright and contrasted the either painted coloring, you know, of some of the traditional cards that were coming out at the time. You either had them really semi-realistic and painted and beautifully done, which I love those cards as well, but then you had the comic style stuff, which was more like this, where it contrasted every time it popped out. The character was just so well defined and gracefully done, and then you had, boom, that background color to make it pop. And that's how they did that. It's almost an Art Deco style, you know, where it's a flat background just contrasting all the definition of the foreground, and it's very contemporary in the way it was done. So I love it. I love this style, and it makes the cards pop. And then of course my style works really well with it because it's got that vintage cartoony style that is either hit or miss with everybody these days, but it's the way I throw down. So hope you like this one. Another one's in the books here. I'm going to leave it alone at this because I don't want to go messing with it anymore. Check you guys out. We're so close to the new year coming up, and hit the ground running. You know, don't wait till the new year to start something. Start something new now. And I start 60 days prior. That way you get a bunch of this stuff going on, and then when the first of the year comes around, all these projects come out January to like June, and it's just boom, 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 boom. So think about that one. and start something now. If you got something in mind, don't wait, don't hesitate, get it done. And as always, try to leave the place better tomorrow than the way you found it today, and better today than you found it yesterday. I hope you had fun with this one. Talk to you tomorrow.